In 1984, from a blue flash in the Los Angeles night, the Terminator stepped out like a nightmare made of steel. Back then, they were only hunters, fugitives, protectors, and police officers caught in fate. Now, after more than 40 years, some became legends, some have passed away. Look back at then and now, where fate still echoes like the cold sound of machines. Number 1. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator T-800. There are characters who do not need many words. Just walking through the smoke is enough to change the course of cinematic history. Arnold Schwarzenegger was born in 1947. When the Terminator was released in 1984, he was 37 years old, and that cold statue-like physique turned the T-800 into an unstoppable nightmare. In the film, he appears naked in the Los Angeles night, takes clothes from a group of punks, and walks into the city like a human-shaped death sentence. Every stage of the T-800 is built like a hunt, checking the phone book, finding every Sarah Connor, killing the wrong ones but never stopping, entering the gun shop with lifeless eyes, then tracking Sarah to the Tech Noir Club. When Kyle Reese shoots him down, the audience thinks the machine is stopped, but he rises again, continuing the chase by car, by gun, and by terrifying silence. The peak is the police station attack, where the T-800 turns the safest place into a slaughterhouse, then finally burns off its human skin, revealing the metal skeleton crawling through the factory. The role stands out because Arnold does not act like a human, but like a program that has been switched on. After the film, he became an action superstar, then entered politics and became governor of California. His real life also had drama with the collapse of his marriage to Maria Shriver after having a child outside the marriage. Currently, Arnold Schwarzenegger is 78 years old, and the image of the T-800 still echoes like metal from a time when Hollywood knew how to create nightmares with a stare. Number 2. Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. Before becoming a female warrior icon, Sarah Connor was just a waitress living a painfully ordinary day. Linda Hamilton was born in 1956. When the Terminator was released in 1984, she was 28 years old, and her initial fragility is what makes Sarah's journey explode. In the film, Sarah begins with clumsy shifts at a diner, teased by customers, answering phones, living with Ginger, completely unaware that her name is on a death list from the future. When news of women named Sarah Connor being murdered appears, fear begins to tighten. She runs into the Tech Noir Club, calls the police, thinking she only needs rescue. But the moment the T-800 raises a gun and Kyle Reese intervenes, Sarah is thrown out of normal life into a time war. From there, she is dragged through chases. Here's Kyle talk about Skynet, about John Connor, about a burned future, and gradually understands that she is not a random victim but the mother of the man who will save humanity. After Kyle dies, Sarah faces the machine skeleton alone in the factory, crawling, running, crushing it in a press and ending the nightmare herself. The role stands out because Sarah is not born strong. She is forged into steel by fear in front of the audience. In real life, Linda Hamilton continued to be associated with Sarah Connor, becoming even more famous with Terminator 2, but her personal life had turbulence. She divorced Bruce Abbott, then later divorced director James Cameron. Currently, Linda Hamilton is 69 years old, and that Sarah Connor remains a reminder that legends sometimes begin with a trembling girl under neon lights. Number 3. Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese. If the T-800 is a sentence from the future, Kyle Reese is the last plea of humanity sent back to the past. Michael Biehn was born in 1956. When the Terminator was released in 1984, he was 28 years old, and he enters the film not as a glamorous hero, but as a soldier worn down to the bone by war. Kyle appears in a flash like the hunter chasing him, but unlike the machine, he is panicked, cold, hungry, chased by police, forced to steal clothes and survive by instinct. When Sarah is cornered at Tech Noir, Kyle fires at the exact moment death raises its weapon, then pulls her out of chaos. From there, his role shifts the rhythm: protector, truth teller, living memory of a post-apocalyptic future. In cars, parking lots, motel rooms, Kyle explains Skynet. John Connor, survivor camps, and why Sarah must live. The most painful point is his love for Sarah is not random. He loved her from a photograph before meeting her. After the truck chase and explosion, Kyle still fights to his last breath, placing a bomb into the T-800 and sacrificing himself so Sarah can live. The role stands out because Biehn creates a hero exhausted but burning with belief. After the film, he continued working with James Cameron in Aliens in the Abyss. His real life had difficult periods mentioned by media related to alcohol and an unstable career. Currently, Michael Biehn is 69 years old, and Kyle Reese remains the most beautiful ghost of love traveling against time. Number 4. Paul Winfield as Lieutenant Ed Traxler, in a film full of gunfire, metal, and future destiny. Lieutenant Ed Traxler of Paul Winfield is a piece of human faith in law, order, and kindness. Paul Winfield was born in 1939. When The Terminator was released in 1984, he was 45 years old, and the role does not need much screen time to leave a steady impression. In the film, Traxler enters when the murders of women named Sarah Connor begin to shake the Los Angeles police. He does not understand Skynet or future war, but he understands that a frightened girl needs protection. When Sarah arrives at the station, Traxler represents the most ordinary trust of society, in files, in cells, in armed officers, in concrete walls. He listens to Kyle Reese with skepticism, but not cruel mockery. That calmness makes the later tragedy heavier, when the T-800 crashes into the station and massacres officers. Traxler watches his logical world collapse. Human bullets become insignificant against something that does not feel pain or fear. The role stands out because Paul Winfield brings humanity to a supporting character. Not a future warrior, but a man trying to protect Sarah with everything 1984 could offer. In real life, Winfield was a respected actor known widely for sounder and many television roles. His personal life was quieter than many stars, but his death in 2004 from a heart attack saddened audiences. Paul Winfield passed away in 2004 at age 64, and Traxler remains like the last light in a police station consumed by darkness. Number 5. Lance Henriksen as Detective Hal Vukovich. Detective Hal Vukovich does not enter the Terminator knowing he stands before the apocalypse. He enters like a cop who has seen enough strange cases in Los Angeles to think that night is just another insane incident. Lance Henriksen was born in 1940. When The Terminator was released in 1984, he was 44 years old, and his raspy voice and rugged face give Vukovich the feeling of a man shaped by long shifts, corpses, and unbelievable testimonies. In the film, Vukovich works with Lieutenant Traxler investigating the murders, then meets Sarah when she is brought to the station. He is not central to destiny like Sarah, nor a soldier like Kyle, but his presence makes the police world feel real. Procedures, skepticism, ordinary dialogue before disaster enters. When Kyle talks about future war, Vukovich sees it through an investigator's logic, like the statement of a disturbed man. But when the T-800 appears and destroys the station, all doubt becomes meaningless. The role stands out because Henriksen creates an ordinary human crushed under the wheels of science fiction myth. The more ordinary, the colder the system's failure feels. After the film, Henriksen became a major face of sci-fi and horror, especially as Bishop in Aliens. His real life also had scars, a poor childhood, divorced parents, and stories of family violence and drifting years before becoming an actor. Currently, Lance Henriksen is 85 years old, and Vukovich remains a memory of those who did not know they were facing the future until it was too late. Number 6. Bess Motta as Ginger Ventura. There are characters who do not know they are living their final hours, and Ginger Ventura is one of them. Bess Motta was born in 1958. When The Terminator was released in 1984, she was 26 years old, bringing into the film the image of a carefree young woman full of energy and completely unaware of the idea of fate. Ginger appears as a perfect contrast to Sarah Connor, more confident, more open, living fully with her boyfriend Matt and everyday conversations in a small apartment. When Sarah calls in panic to warn about a killer targeting women with the same name, Ginger responds with a half-belief, trying to reassure her friend as if everything is just a misunderstanding. But that normalcy becomes the tragedy on a night that seems peaceful. When Sarah is not home, the T-800 tracks the address, breaks into the apartment, and Ginger, someone unrelated to the future, knowing nothing about Skynet, is killed coldly simply because of a name in a directory. That moment is not just a death, but a reminder that the machine does not distinguish right or wrong. It only executes its mission. The role stands out because Motta represents the innocent victim in a world torn apart by destiny. After the film, Bess Motta did not become a Hollywood superstar, instead shifting toward television and performance arts. Her personal life remained quiet, without major scandals but also without explosive breakthroughs. Currently, Bess Motta is 68 years old, and Ginger Ventura remains the memory of a girl who laughed so genuinely, just before history erased her without warning. Number 7. Rick Rossovich as Matt Buchanan. There are people who enter a story only to love, but leave in absolute silence. Rick Rossovich was born in 1957. When the film premiered in 1984, he was 27 years old. and Matt Buchanan appears as a very human part of the world before being crushed by the future. Matt is Ginger's boyfriend, a young man, slightly goofy but sincere, who enjoys jokes, intimacy, and has no idea that the night he stays in that apartment will be his last. In the film, Matt represents normal life, trivial conversations, intimate moments, laughter mixed with innocence. When Sarah calls to warn of danger, Matt does not believe it, just like anyone in the real world would react, because how could anyone believe in a machine from the future killing people over a name? But that disbelief means he has no time to react when the T-800 breaks in. There is no battle, no chance to escape, just a death that comes too fast, too cold, and too meaningless. The role does not need length, but creates a strong effect, showing that anyone can become a victim when destiny begins to move. After the film, Rick Rossovich continued his career with notable roles in Top Gun and Roxanne, but never reached superstar status. He gradually withdrew from Hollywood to live a quieter life, away from spotlight and scandal. Currently, Rick Rossovich is 69 years old, and Matt Buchanan remains the image of a young man who never had the chance to understand why he had to die. Number 8. Earl Boen as Doctor. Peter Silberman. There are people who do not believe in the impossible until they become part of it. Earl Boen was born in 1941. When the Terminator was released in 1984, he was 43 years old. And Dr. Peter Silberman appears as the embodiment of rational science confronting what seems like delusion. In the film, Silberman interviews Kyle Reese, the man who speaks of future war, Skynet, and a killing machine, and his response is entirely logical. He sees Kyle as a paranoid patient. He analyzes, questions, attempts to dismantle the delusion using psychology, as if everything can be explained by the human mind. But when the T-800 attacks the police station, when bullets cannot stop it, and reality begins to exceed all scientific definitions, Silberman is forced to confront what he once denied. The role stands out because he is not a villain, but a symbol of the old world where humans believe they understand everything. After the film, Earl Boen continued to play Silberman in later Terminator installments, becoming a recurring ironic figure, always witnessing but never controlling the truth. In real life, he was also a well-known voice actor, but his life ended quietly when he passed away in 2023 due to lung cancer. Earl Boen died in 2023 at age 81, and Dr. Silberman remains a reminder that sometimes science must bow before the nightmare of the future. Number 9. Dick Miller as Pawnshop Clerk. There are characters who appear for only a few minutes, yet trigger an irreversible chain of tragedy. Dick Miller was born in 1928. When the film was released in 1984, he was 56 years old, and his role as the pawnshop clerk is one of the most important links leading to the nightmare. In the film, the T-800 enters the shop, examines each weapon like a normal customer, and the seller, with the confidence of someone used to dealing arms, introduces each item without knowing he is speaking to a killing machine. That short exchange creates one of the most memorable moments, when the T-800 asks about weapons beyond the list, then suddenly turns and shoots the clerk. There is no extended buildup, just a sharp transition from transaction to murder, enough to carve the machine's absolute lack of emotion. The role stands out because Dick Miller turns a small scene into a symbol of transition, from a normal world to one where death comes without moral reason. In real life, Miller was a familiar face in films by Roger Corman and Joe Dante, often playing small but memorable roles. His personal life was far more stable than the tragedies on screen. Dick Miller passed away in 2019 at age 90, and that shopkeeper remains like a warning bell that everything has begun to spiral out of control. Back then, they were just people pulled into a night of unavoidable destiny. Now, time has passed. Some have aged, some have gone, but that story still lives on. The Terminator is not just a film, it is the trace of an era that never truly sleeps.